Hey guys, it's Kosi. Welcome back to episode 4 of losing aggro on pull because I'm an idiot. In this Zero to Hero Brewmaster Monk Edition. In the last episode we finally started to play some dungeons rather clean while buffing up our gear with a 2 set and an insane trinket that is technically quite strong, yet I called it mid for Mythic Plus.
You idiot!
Furthermore, we improved enough to be praised after a run instead of flamed, and we managed to do an incredible big pull just to ruin it with a good old fat finger angle.
Bruh.
But today, oh boy. Alrighty, let me give you a quick walkthrough of what happens in this episode. We're going to start the Gilded Crest farm, craft ourselves not 1 but 2 big booty items, and then ultimately attempting our first +10 in this series in a weekly no lever situation that nobody would have predicted. Also, for the very first time in history of Zero to Hero, not only on this channel but ever, I think, we got not 1 but 2 vaults to open. You heard me. Arguably the worst vault I've ever had on a character too, so make sure to like the episode and subscribe if you haven't yet, since it's for free and you won't miss another upload in the future. And because I love you. Alrighty, while I try to figure out how to get that dumbest song out of my head, let me show you what we've gotten from our second vault of the season, or the first vault of this video. Now, I was considering to potentially grab the relic trinket from Delves, as I've read somewhere that it got buffed in the past, but it turns out it's still ass. So while there was a hero weapon that I could have potentially taken, I eventually decided to go for the Verse Mastery ring.
For what? Why?
The current weapons I had were quite good, and since I wouldn't have upgraded the 2-hand anyways, that one was out of the question. All in all, no banger items anyway, so we move. Yet for the sake of the length of the series, I won't show you all the dungeons I've been doing, as most of them are just me being a tight ass trying to get reps in and figuring out some pulls. And to be honest here, I don't really want to purposely farm content, but be assured, failure is part of improving.
Bye, have a great time.
Now then, for warm-up purposes, we go ahead and start off with the Floodgate. This is one of the keys I'm dreading to do in higher level keys, because the boss's Tankbuster here scare me a little bit. Another thing I'm not completely comfortable with is the route. I did manage to make the first pull a bit smoother, even though DPS will hate me for not pulling big, but I don't care. I can't gather a big pull onto the first shredder because I don't got grips, so I gotta make it work. This is the route I've come to like. Surely some can be improved, but I like to keep it rather simple and fail-safe when it comes to accidentally body pulling. The mentioned scary part for me in the potential +10 key is the third boss. Swamp Face Sludge Claws beat the brakes off of your average tank. And you can ask my ex-girl, I'm below average in every sense of the word.
Stop the cap!
Yet we do got some more dungeons to cover, so I'm just gonna leave you with the insane play of mine towards the end. I tried to get into a place where the boss's knockback won't knock me off, but I was too late. Got electrocuted and then stunned. And then dead. And yet it was worth it, because when I opened the loot box, nothing. One of these days I get a trinket, man. One of these days. But before we are going for some proper keys, I'd like to mention the achievement of Keystone Master on a rookie run, even if barely but still 2k rating, which is not really impressive, but it does grant me another catalyst charge. Which brings me to this. Foresight. Now the Foresight of Brew is not really that impressive, but I think none of the tank tier sets is. It pretty much just grants us some flat damage to Blackout Kick and a quicker use of any form of Blackout combo. Not insane, but Blackout Kick can hit hard now too, so we like that. Apparently it's recommended to play Master of Harmony after obtaining the set, but I stay with Shadowpan for now cause I kinda like it. Now while I keep our first +9 key in the background, let me talk to you about the new weak aura I got, which annoys me so much to even have gotten. This weak aura pretty much does this, but way more visible. Having proper information about the amount of damage staggered, also with the percentage of your own HP, is so helpful. I don't like that this staggering bar is not easy to spot with the baseline UI, as it seems rather important. Also new this episode is the affix Silent Thoughts Bargain Voidbound. Now, last season this was by far the best affix you could get, easy to deal with and an insane reward in 20% versatility, which is 20% flat damage and healing, alongside some extra cooldown reduction, which is fantastic for Mythic Plus. This affix got slightly changed though, and without getting into too much detail, it's a lot more important to actually focus it down now this season. The cast time of the spell got significantly reduced and now applies a debuff that is at a maximum of 50% damage done and 100% reduced damage taken to enemies when finished. However, the amount of buff value will go down depending on her HP whenever she manages to cast it through. Fortunately, we do have Touch of Death. Now, I would rather use it to reset staggering, but it takes about half of the HP of the affix, so I probably should use it for the affix this week. Now, the reason why I jumped so seemingly easy towards +9 keys right away is because this week is Tyrannical. And for those that don't know, at +7 or higher, either Fortified or Tyrannical will be present during keys. While Fortified heavily increases the amount of damage of trash mobs, as well as the HP with a 20% modifier, Tyrannical pretty much does the same for bosses only. And since bosses usually are easier to deal with as a tank, besides that Tankbuster of Swamp Phase, I wasn't too starstruck getting into these key levels. It also really helps that Theater of Pain is quite easy on tanks, besides the final boss, so I was happy to use this as a big stepping stone for more rating and more crests. During the first encounter, I really advise you to stack up with the party and then slowly move together during Narcissus? Poison Spores, okay?
Stop stuttering.
Those puddles stay for a few minutes, so you want to get them neatly put to the side, otherwise it can get quite messy. Other than that, focus either Pastor Run, as he's the one doing that very mechanic, or Desia if you want to be a nice guy to the tank, as that thing applies the Mortar Strike for some insane reduced healing. Luckily a monk, we can potentially dodge that, no problem. Other than that, this dungeon got some quite heavy nerfs or hotfixes depending on who you're asking, so we're gonna go over a few of those in the next video as they were not live yet while recording this footage. With that being said, quick 2 chest, no loot, and I rerolled my key because of YOLO, but I won't play it anyways. And still, not over 1 mil DPS. It's the small things in life that matter to me. Disregarding, it was time for some crafted upgrades. And for me, there was only one solution: the belt. What belt? Can I hear you ask? The belt.
Are you stupid or something?
Adrenal Surge Clasp is the wet dream of every ladder tank, as the proc it gives is actually insane. 3150 main stat every now and then, which will only get doubled whenever we get our next item with the embellishment buff. This thing is so good. And just as a bonus, it got biz stats by default, since you can't change the stats on those specific items. Lovely. Now then, with the positive mindset of a drunk fox tank, almost 649 item level and a belt that has the same snap to it as my stepdad's, I was ready to not only conquer the 1 mil overall DPS ceiling, but also a dungeon that just seems to fail every time during my runs for whatever reason. For context, currently I am so flippin' cursed when it comes to Mechagon. The runs always go silky smooth. I'm talking buttery looped and massaged with the finest body lotion you can find.
Try to relax your anus.
Anyways, they usually went pretty good up until the final boss, so let's pray for the best here. And even though this went quite nice, our druid was already setting the tone of gathering some deaths. But look man, I would have loved to show you some funny fails and all, but boy, this was a solid recording session up until now. Yes, we didn't time it with a big amount of time left or even 2 chesting, but it was still a rather clean run all in all. We were just a bit slow, that's all. And yet, before we continue, we will quickly send an 07 for all the dungeons that didn't make it in this episode. 9 Cleft, 9 Motherload, 9 Brew, 8 Rookery. As those are important to note, since we gathered enough quests to craft ourselves a second item, and boy did that spark a conversation. Naturally, because of our agility granting strap-on, we need another item to double the effect of this Nerubian embellishment. And so I went with a chest piece.
Okay.
Hear me out. At this point, I was still rocking an Adventurer maxed out 632 item level piece, so this thing is 43 item level difference, with solid stats to top it off. I know that chest ain't the play for the most part, but I do have Foresight and I needed quick and impactful upgrades, because now we attempt our first plus 10. Now, I am still a bit scared to potentially mess it up, and I tell you why. I played this week with Tyrannical, so bosses won't worry me at all, but the 20% more damage from trash is something I can't really visualize on my damage taken. But I managed to get into a Dark Flame Cleft, so we can go slowly but surely, as the timer allows it, right? Alright? Ah shit. Yet let's start from the beginning, and don't mind those muppets in the chat claiming that they were in the party, they are not. This started with a meme from 2 viewers which I have both on my friend list, so I would have seen that they are in the party. And all of a sudden, everyone was in the party, right? Disregarding, the pulling slowly part was about to be ended quicker than my career as a wholesome streamer. The difference? Not because of me. You see, in this specific pull, I'd like to backtrack the mobs as they get knocked back by the big circle from the juiced up kobold. And while I clutched that on pull right away, before the next storm, there was some random ass incap totem appearing, ensuring a most unpleasant extra pull. Now we had 2 storms to worry about, so naturally I was stressed out a lot. And then this thing. Another pack. And the ones from above. What an insane chain reaction from one spell used wrong. This is crazy. To say I was quite mad at this being my first +10 experience is an understatement. The healer was insane though. Even with dying to all the group damage, he managed to end up on 1.7 mil HPS. He's the MVP, man. He's the absolute MVP. Now, one thing I learned from playing this dungeon more than once is you absolutely need to make sure you stack the boss with the exploding minecart. Otherwise, DPS will have a really hard time to change targets and play the mechanics. At least I was chill now, as this is by far the most annoying part of this dungeon, and from now on I can just pull slowly. Oh hell nah. Used all my mobility to get ahead, should have kept it for the pull itself as I had some really mad issues gathering the packs. I should have never listened to the guy with way more experience than me. Granted, besides having messy pulls that took way too long to gather, I at least didn't feel useless. Yes, okay, on bosses my HPS is so bad I need a carry. But I just stayed on it to spam blackout kick into tiger palm for the most damage. Just make sure as a tank you will never leave the melee range, as this thing will clap the entire party if you do. And I can tell you, I figured this out the hard way, not because I read the spells on the journal. Now another thing I've been told but never was able to actually get done, apparently on the Candle King you want to stack up non-stop. So the little wax figures are spawning more closely. Seems like it works, but we can agree that people will split and everything will go to shit real quick. Speaking of going to shit, 3 out of 4 kicks were used on the first fear, so only the DK had one left. You had one job, man. And this is where a gamer separates from the casual. The shaman instantly adapted. He would just never use kick unless he saw most of us had cooldown on it. I also started to instantly kick the cast, so the shaman knew he potentially has to take the next one. Communication without words, that's my kind of relationship.
Stop it. Get some help.
And because I didn't actually mention this in the last episode, besides putting it in per text on screen, I'm going to mention this one real quick. Whenever you get the debuff with the big circle, you want to go out and grab a candle. Apparently that reduces the damage you take from the effect itself, which I honestly couldn't find in a dungeon journal to approve, yet you need to get out of the group anyway, so it's a good time to grab the new candle regardless. We eventually legit got through this with that one death from the beginning to time our first +10 of the season. I appreciate the healer on this one. I mean, the damage was nice, but that pull in the beginning was wild. And yet, as I promised, the second vault. Because now we got a myth item waiting for us. And after having a really annoying wank of a vault in the beginning that didn't give me anything decent, surely this one will be better.
No?
I got hero tier chest, which I don't need because I crafted myself one. Unlucky. I got hero hands, which I don't need because I got some. Unlucky. I got a crit haste ring, which I don't need because I got a hero ring from the last vault. Unlucky. And I got a haste mastery ring that is probably the worst thing that could ever happen to me on myth. Unlucky. So our third vault of the series, coins it is. At least they updated the name of this item. Now it perfectly reflects the feeling of anybody getting it.